Welcome to Podula Rasa. I'm David Blank.
And I'm Jim Esch.
This is a podcast about finding something in nothing.
Welcome back.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. It's Podula Rasa, Season 5, Episode 3. And today we have a couple topics we want to discuss. One that we've been meaning to discuss for a while now, and that is ChatGPT and these AI bots that seem to be taking over the world. So everyone's been talking about ChatGPT. And Dave, what's your take on all this? Where is this headed?
I don't think it's headed anywhere good. I'm pretty sure that I've been reading discussion posts that were created by it. I've tried my own just to, see how it formats them. And you can tell kind of when there's like that 3 or 4 paragraph discussion post with a summary at the end. It just sounds very much like, it's correct, but it sounds like it's not created by a human being. There's not I'm wondering why I'm not using it, to be honest with you. It would save me a lot of time. So, I won't, but I'm starting to think maybe I should be. And then, in a way, ChatGPT can be talking to itself on my discussion boards.
When did you first start hearing about it, or when did you first try it out?
I tried it out about a month ago just to see. I've been seeing a lot about it on LinkedIn. My sister wrote a post that I guess was predominantly created by ChatGPT, and she mentions it at the end. But it got me thinking because it's almost too human-like. And I was, before the podcast, we were talking, and I've been listening to the Bill Maher podcast, Club Random, and he talks about it, and he says that it's kind of like this "I can't do that, Dave" moment from 2001. And it, back in the late 70s, when it seemed like, oh, this will never happen, and here we are 40 years later, and it's happening. The machines are taking over. It concerns me. Cheating aside, it just concerns me that machines could basically, you could get your electricity turned off because a machine decided that, these are the rules that were programmed in. So, there's no person at the other end. How many times have you called a service number and you talk to the machine the entire time? I've called banks and talking to machines. It's like, this is your money. and I don't know. It's just, it's a little out of control.
It seems to be making humans irrelevant. Like, right. We're just becoming a byproduct, and pretty soon, like, the world will just run on autopilot, and we become more and more unnecessary. Yeah. And I first heard about it back, I think, around December, and I tried it out right at the end of the semester. And I think I got a couple papers at the end of the semester that were using it, in hindsight, because something just felt a little bit off. So everyone knows with ChatGPT, it's being widely used for plagiarism, and students are just, the temptation is too great. I'm just going to let the thing write my assignment. So I did some tests with it, and I gave it my final writing assignment, the bigger essay. And it wrote the essay literally in about 15 seconds, 10 seconds. It just spit it out before my very eyes. Something that if I was just casually grading it, I'd be like, this is very competently written. There's no grammatical problems. And then you realize it's super generic. You can sort of tell, at least at this point, we can tell when it's been written by ChatGPT, or probably been written by ChatGPT.
Maybe.
That line's starting to blur, no doubt.
Yeah.
But my initial thought was this is a game changer, and my career is over. Writing instruction is over. I don't know what to do at this point. We're going to have to change everything we do in the teaching of writing. And it's changed how I'm approaching the teaching of writing this semester. I'm doing more scaffolding, where the students aren't just expected to spit out a paper at the end, but I have to see things in stages, and we have meetings about it. And I'm just trying everything I can to make sure that they're actually doing the thinking.
Yeah.
But then my devious mind kicked in, and I thought, but you could have the thing grade for you. Student paper comes in, I copy paste it into ChatGPT, and I say, give it a grade and give it comments.
Seriously?
You can do that. Sure, of course you could do it. I did it actually. I had it grade itself. So for the sample paper,
oh my God.
I then the next step was like, okay, here's my rubric. Give yourself a grade. I think it gave itself a B-. We could find ourselves in this dystopic scenario where ChatGPT is writing the essays, and then humans aren't even grading the essays. That the ChatGPT is also grading the essays, and then we become irrelevant. We're just pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then when does it decide that we're irrelevant and it can fix us?
And I've been reading these stories. I'm sure all of you have been reading about these, like, especially it seems like the Microsoft Bing AI bot sort of has an attitude. So there was a New York Times reporter who like the bot was trying to talk the guy into leaving his wife.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you start to merge that with all the other intelligence that's been gathered about people, and who's to say that these tools aren't going to be used for therapy or for like your guidance counselor or like anything. Right. Yeah.
Well, the thing you have to ask yourself though is where does the attitude come from? Or if it's being used for therapy, where does the advice come from? It comes from people. I mean, you have to program it in. It's not, so for the Bing one, I mean, obviously that came from a person who said, oh, let's give it an attitude. And it didn't develop the attitude by itself.
Right. I mean, at this point, I'm not as worried about the bots becoming sentient. I'm more worried about the impact it's having on people. Like it's like our skills are just going to atrophy. And like no one's going to know how to write. No one's going to know how to make art. We used to think that humans were special. We're creative. We're rational. We have like these higher cognition functions. And all that is now being mimicked by the tools. Like I don't think the tools are actually thinking. They're just very well programmed, and they can imitate what we're doing, but they actually can produce text. They can produce art. They can do things better than we can do them now, or that it's leading in that direction. That's what I'm concerned about. But maybe that's a good thing, that we shouldn't think we're so special.
Well, what is thinking? What is thinking anyway? You're basically programmed your whole life, and you react how you react based on what you've learned. So isn't that the same thing? Isn't it really thinking?
That leads you down the road to like, we realize we're machines.
Right.
And I think that's dangerous too, because I don't think that, but it's very tempting to think that, like, because we're being turned into machines by that, because we're not thinking of ourselves as special anymore, but we're sort of forgetting what it means to be human.
I was actually hearing something about that. It was a podcast where they were talking about how social media has really aided in the divisions in the world, because it's so easy now to be completely dismissive or completely obnoxious, or you just don't answer a question, or you just tell somebody to F off or whatever. Right. It's like, it's easy. Like, oh, the hell with it. You can offend somebody. It doesn't matter. And social media has done this for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can just ghost people. You can just, if someone bothers you, you just erase them. It's like hitting a delete key.
Right.
But in the former real life, you couldn't do that so easily.
Right.
But having said all this, like I went through this panic mode with ChatGPT for a couple of months, and now I'm like a little bit more chill about it. Now I'm just sort of sitting back and I have my popcorn out. I'm just watching the show, like see how it unfolds. And this affects me directly too, because as a freelance writer, I could be put out of business by these tools. At some level, I think there's going to be a need for a human touch, but we might have to become better editors, take what the ChatGPT is offering and then actually shape it, add style to it, like give it more of a human element. So it's unfolding before our eyes. I don't know where it's leading, but I have the concerns that you have. Like it does feel very dystopian and Brave New World and all that. But that won't surprise me. That's a story that's been gradually playing out for decades.
I think one thing is for sure that we're going to see something pan out of it within the next year. I don't think it's going to just remain at this level. Something will happen.
Right.
And I don't think it's going away, but something will happen.
And if they do take over the world, then we got to figure out, like, what are we going to do? Like, what's our new role?
Right, what's next
in the world?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, well, it's a concern. Like, why do schools need me? They can just plug it into a free app and have it. I mean, everything's automated anyway. So why not automate me too? And then you don't have to pay me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a story we'll keep tracking as we go forward. What else is happening, Dave? What have you been reading these days?
I have been reading Autobiography of a Yogi, and it's not a new book, but a new book for me about the Upanishads.
Oh,
and it's been it's sort of at the same time and kind of back and forth. It's been interesting. I take a little nugget. I'm not trying to get through it at any speed or anything. And,
is the book about the Upanishads, or is it a translation?
Well, it's both. It's translation, but it's also in context of like when it was written and like a more modern interpretation, how it can be used. It's a book by, how do I pronounce this? Eknath Easwaran.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. I'm still getting into it, and I just sort of found it randomly one day at a bookstore. How about you? What are you reading?
Reading a lot, but the most recent thing I got was it's called The Heart of Emerson's Journals, and it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson, the American transcendentalist. I'm teaching him next week, teaching his essay Self-Reliance. He's been on my mind. And I was reading this other book. I'm not going to remember the title, but it's by Lewis Mumford, who was this 20th century guy, really good writer, by the way. But he was interested in all kinds of things. He was interested in like technology and utopias, and he was interested also in literature. So he wrote a lot about American literature. So I was reading about Emerson's journals in the Lewis Mumford book, and that got me interested in reading his journals. So I found at the Baldwin's Book Barn, which is just literally an old historic barn that's a bookstore outside of Westchester. They had an old copy, I think it's from like 1920s, called The Heart of Emerson's Journals.
So you're feeling like you're getting new insights?
Yeah. It's like he's talking about a lot about his vulnerability, like he's sort of feeling like he's not smart enough or good enough compared to his fellow students or other people like in their 20s. It's like right now I'm reading like the earlier years, and that sort of surprised me. It didn't come across as this egotistical, like I know everything type of person. And he's grappling with religion a lot. So he studied to be a preacher, a minister, and he was for a while, and then he resigned. Like he didn't want to deliver the sacrament anymore, and he just didn't believe in it anymore. And he also, by the way, was reading a lot of Indian philosophy and religions like you are, and getting exposed to that and having a more like broader concept of religion. So you see some of that in there, and then there'll be entries like, my wife died today. So he had a lot of family loss in his life. His wife died, his brother died, later on, like he had children that died. So you can see him grieving over that. So yeah, it just gives a much more rounded picture of the man. And it feels very fresh too. It's like very intimate writing. So yeah, I like it a lot. Recommend it.
How do you think it's impacted your journaling?
He's a better writer than I am.
But does it make you more like thoughtful when you're journaling?
I think so. I mean, I just started the book a day ago, but I was thinking about that today when I was doing my morning pages.
Yeah.
Thinking like, I hope no one ever reads these. I mean, I don't even want to read these pages. It might make me try a little harder to craft some complete thoughts or do that in another kind of journal. But in some ways, it's comparing and saying like, well, he's doing some of the same things that I do. So there's like a feeling of solidarity there. So, listening, what have you been listening to lately? Any music?
Well, I saw a quarter of the Talking Heads last week. They played here in Buffalo. Adrian Belew and Jerry Harrison. It was a good show. It's really good. It's a little venue, like maximum of 1,000 people, I think, and we were maybe with like the first 10 people who got in. So it was general admission. So we could have been right in the very front of the venue, but we selected a place to sit, and it was really good. They had a 10-piece band behind them, 9 or 10, and they did almost all the songs from Remain in Light, Psycho Killer, some King Crimson tune I didn't know, but if I was a fan, I suppose I would know. And a couple other Talking Heads tunes. It was really cool. I mean, Jerry Harrison's in his 70s, and he's still really awesome.
That's inspiring when you see someone that old because they can still bring it.
Yeah.
It's funny because just last night, one of our friends was texting Stacy, and she had gone to that very same show at the Keswick Theater in Glenside. I guess they were just there the other night.
Okay.
And had a blast. She was just raving about how much fun it was.
Yeah. They're on tour, and they some of the, like when they did Once in a Lifetime, their big hit, I thought it was a little disappointing because the levels were wrong. I knew what song it was, but it was just it didn't sound right. Or Take Me to the River. That was like I could barely hear Harrison playing the key parts, which is like the key part of that whole song. But the neat thing was that everybody was singing in the venue along with, and so you were getting the band, but you were also getting the chorus, which was everywhere. How about you?
One out of the ordinary experience was I found a used CD. I think I only paid $1 for it. Shostakovich's Fourth Symphony by the BBC Radio Symphony Orchestra. This CD came out maybe in the 90s. And I've seen it in that store for quite a while, and I thought, I'll give this a shot. Like, I don't know anything about this symphony or this conductor. I think the guy's name is Hanek. He's a pretty famous conductor now, but I listened to this, and I was just, it was one, sometimes you listen to an album and it takes you someplace, it transports you. So I went into some kind of like weird trance listening to this music. I was very involved with it. And I was like lying on the sofa listening to it, and I went someplace. It was like astral travel, and like the music was so cool. And I was thinking, like, this is like better than prog rock. It's like everything that prog rock does, or it's just as good as prog rock. Like, it's just involved, it's intricate, it's loud, like there's rhythm, there's like all these different sections. And I was like, so cool. I was like blown away by it. And then I don't know like how long I was in like this trance. And then when the music was finally over, I mean, I was awake the whole time, but when it was over, I like open my eyes, I look at the clock, and I'm like, I'm late for work. I thought it was like the morning, and like I had overslept. I got to get to work. Oh, and then I realized, no, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. Like that's how out of touch I was from the real world. And I think I don't know for sure the background of this symphony, because his fifth symphony is his most famous one, and that's like an awesome work too. And I had recently listened to like Eugene Ormandy's Philadelphia Orchestra recording of it, which is phenomenal. But I think with the fourth symphony, or some of the, maybe the third or the fourth, he got in trouble with the Soviet Union, where they were like, you're going too far. Like you're going, your music's too Western or too experimental or whatever. And they, I think there was some risk that whether he was going to still be able to do his job, or they're going to ship him off to Siberia or someplace. So in the fifth symphony, he kind of got back in their good graces, but that symphony is really subversive. He's also like making fun of like the militaristic totalitarian society that he's living in. But I'm thinking maybe this was the fourth symphony was the one that got him in trouble. So we'll research it. But you have a connection to Shostakovich.
Somehow. Right. I had a student in one of my classes who was his great grandson's wife. And I saw the name and I was like, are you related? She was like, yeah. He said, unfortunately, my husband didn't get any of his musical abilities. That was the end of it. And then she did the class. But it's kind of cool when you see a name like that.
So yeah, that's my update.
That's good. So you're on break right now?
On spring break, really trying to just relax and just do things I want to do and not try to do too much. It's going pretty well.
Good. Yeah. In a month, I'm going to Italy.
Ooh.
Yeah, with my family. So we're going to just take a week and a half and head out there.
For vacation?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm bringing a bunch of classes with me, but
sure.
But yeah.
What's on the itinerary?
Florence, Siena. We're going to breeze through Pisa, Pompeii, Rome, Vatican, Colosseum, all the main points. We're going to learn to make pizza. There was a class that we signed up for. I'm going to try to do something called Eat With, which is something that a very old friend of mine told me about. That you basically you sign, if you go to eatwith.com, you can sign up to go literally eat at people's houses. It costs money, but it's like they open their house, they either teach you to eat something or make something, or I don't know. He said they really enjoy doing it, so I'm gonna try it. Seems like it's a little bit more expensive than going to a restaurant, but it sounds like it would be a fun experience.
So, that does sound great.
Yeah. You can do it in America too. It's not just in Europe.
I love that idea, because then you get to know real people and
right.
Yeah, that's very cool. So eatwith.com?
I believe that's what it is. Yeah. If you search Eat With, you'll find it. And as I noted earlier, I just got over COVID, so I'm all set there. My natural immunity is up, so I don't have anything to worry about, hopefully.
Well, that's great. I guess we can't do a Paglia remote link to Italy, but that would be fun. But take good notes. I mean, you'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, when you get back.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, so it took me 35 plus years to get back, but we're going back.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see Pompeii too.
Yeah. Supposedly there's a lot of it's been excavated. Not all of it, but there's some more areas, I guess. I saw something recently in the news that they've identified some more interesting artifacts, and it's an amazing place. When I was at Pompeii last, I had a choice to either walk around downtown or hike Mount Vesuvius, and I chose to walk around downtown. But I kind of wish that I'd hiked up, because that could be pretty cool too. we're going to see Capri, and then we have like 3 hours in Pompeii on the way from Sorrento to Rome, and then and then like 2 days in Rome, and then we're coming home. So it's mostly tours. The way we're doing it is kind of the reverse of the way most people do it, because the company that we went through, we decided we just wanted to do it with just us, like just our family, instead of the 40 or 60 person tour, because we were concerned about time. Like I wanted to make sure I had, in case we had to be slower, that we'd have the ability to do that. So it's kind of a there will be certain elements that'll be with the bigger groups, but it'll be mostly just my family. So it'll be nice.
Very nice.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. We'll have a good trip. I guess I don't know if we'll do another podcast before you leave or not, but we'll definitely get an update.
Sure. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to have to wrap it up for today. We've been talking for a while, and let us know your thoughts on the episode. You can reach us at padularasa@gmail.com, and we hope you'll become a subscriber at your podcast directory of choice. And we'll see you either later this month or back in April. Thanks, Dave.
Take it easy. Thank you.